With Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides in theaters now, enjoy the first 4 films of the franchise with this amazing Blu-ray box set. Click the link below for more details. Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is 3 Buck Theater, and I just got home from watching Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Men Tell No Tales, the 5th iteration in a franchise that probably should have ended after the 3rd one. That's not to say I didn't enjoy this one as well as the 4th one, but outside of maybe one thing, I felt that ultimately it was, it was good, but I was like, was it necessary? Was this anything more than a cash grab? And I'm leaning more to the it was a cash grab than it was trying to continue the storyline. Again, outside of one thing, which I will talk about with the spoiler section. Now, if you want to know whether or not I think you should see this movie, if you are a fan of the franchise, if you want to see the next iteration, then yes, go out and see it. I saw it with my girlfriend, my sister, and my stepmom. And the last movie I saw with my stepmom and my sister was Pirates of the Caribbean 2 in August of 2006. So that was a fun thing for us to reconnect and go see the newest movie. And we all did have a good deal of fun because we were talking, contrasting, and comparing the things from the previous films and what little things popped up. So if you are a fan of the franchise, I do highly recommend it in that regard. Do not see it in 3D. Do not see it in IMAX. It is not worth it. Just see it in standard, though. I saw it IMAX 3D, and the 3D was wonky. Nowhere near as good as Guardians of the Galaxy, which I saw in 3D a couple weeks ago. And again, if you could see it in a 2D IMAX, if that even exists in this plane of existence, then go see it there. But if not, then don't even worry about it. But here we go. We're going into spoiler territory now. You've been warned about the spoilers. So here it is, 5 years post the events of Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides. And it starts off talking about young Henry Turner, Will Turner's son, played by Brendan Thwaites. Not in this scene. This scene, he's like, he's like 10 years old or whatever, 10 or 11 years old. And he swims out to the ocean or sails out to the ocean, ties rocks around his waist, and drops to the bottom to land on the deck of the Flying Dutchman in order to basically force his dad, Orlando Bloom, Will Turner, to surface. And they talk, and he's like, "You gotta forget about me, son. You gotta forget. And he's like, "Jack Sparrow will find you." And he's like, "Whoa, hey, you stay away from him. No matter, like that kind of thing." And so then it's like, oh, hey, 9 years later. 9 years later, and then Henry is trying he's on a boat, military, Royal Navy and whatever. And they end up going into the Devil's Triangle while chasing pirates. And he is the last survivor. This is where we meet Salazar, Capitan Salazar, played by the always marshmallow mouth Javier Bardem. Like, his dialogue in this movie is understandable, but you sometimes have to strain to hear it. And I know he's trying to play up that raspy voice, with the accent and everything else, but it was hit or miss with him on this one. But he's been looking for Jack Sparrow, and he basically tells him, "Hey, go send him a message, blah, 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 blah," and then they're all trying to find the Trident of Poseidon. And of course, we team up, we catch up with Jack, who's currently pulling a bank heist with his old pirate crew in a scene. In a scene that was great. I really liked it, but to me it felt like, oh, hey, Fast and Furious Pirate Edition, because they're stealing a vault on horseback, and the vault is like stuck to the bank, but because of the way the buildings are built, they're just dragging the bank through the streets, systematically taking it out bit by bit. And of course, Jack gets mutinied, and once again, this is going to happen, and he gets arrested, and Will gets arrested, or Henry, I keep going to call him Will. And this is when they also meet Caitlin Smith, who is the love interest, the not damsel in distress, very similar to Keira Knightley. In fact, they share very similar energy. And she is trying to find the Trident of Poseidon as well, in order to find out what her birthright is, because she was orphaned with a Galileo diary, and trying to understand it all. And she has a mind for science, and because she's got a mind for science, everyone calls her a witch. So there's some stuff there, and they go on the adventure, they team up and everything else, and, you know, hunt down the Trident of Poseidon, eventually finding themselves in league once again with Captain Hector Barbosa, played awesomely by Jeffrey Rush. And it was good to see the two back together again, because some of my favorite interactions with the first couple movies was, or hell, all the movies have always been Johnny Depp and Jeffrey Rush. I just like the banter back and forth. This was a little bit muted. It wasn't as like it wasn't as like, you know, witty as the first film was, but you could see, like, you know, Jeffrey Rush has aged. It's been 14 years since the first movie came out, but then again, Barbossa was dead, then he was alive, then he was a pirate captain again, then he was working with the Royal Navy, then he became a pirate captain again. So his story's kind of all over the place, but still good to see him. What I liked about this, though, was the idea of hunting down the you know, the Trident of Poseidon and using the stars to do it. You know, cartography was a thing, but this was like really kind of honing in on cartography and astronomy and trying to like pinpoint it all together. And of course, as they're out there, you know, you've got the pirates on the back, and Jack has the Black Pearl like in a you know, in a jar in his chest, and that's kind of like their get out of jail free card, because Barbossa has Blackbeard's sword from the fourth movie and he unleashes the Black Pearl. So hey, all of a sudden the Black Pearl's back with his black sails and everything else. That was a cool little fanfare. There was one thing though, where right before that scene where they're on a beach and you see like, it looks like washed up whale bones, but part of me really wants to know if this was the bones of the Kraken, because it felt like they were at the beach where the Kraken died, and I have to go back and watch that again from At World's End, the third movie, so, to see whether or not like that's what it was. But to me, that's what it felt like, and I'm probably wrong. I asked my sister, who's a huge fan, and she was like, I don't know, she couldn't tell. So we'll have to go back and watch it again. But then, of course, you know, they all get to the Poseidon. It's at the bottom of the ocean, very like, you know, Moses splitting the Red Sea sort of thing. They fight, they destroy the Trident in order to release all cursed souls from their curses, and this returns the captain to life or to human form. And then, of course, Barbossa basically sacrifices himself for his daughter, because you find out that his daughter is actually Caitlin. And again, when I first started watching the movie, I thought she's going to be either Barbossa's daughter or she's going to be Jack Sparrow's daughter. So at first I was leaning towards Jack Sparrow. You know, him drunken night in a bar, but then she was a little bit too adept to be Jack Sparrow's daughter. And yeah, I'm glad it was Barbossa, because it was good to have him get that human connection, that thing to sacrifice, the thing that you love. He's always been a hardened badass, you know, always out for my treasure, but this kind of like this humanized him. And then, of course, like, you know he's going to sacrifice himself, but still it's like, God damn it. I love Barbossa. Barbossa's the shit. My biggest complaint with the film, though, is the fact that, for one, Jack Sparrow was not the main character. He wasn't. He simply was not the main character at all. It was all about Henry Turner. Henry Turner was the main character. Jack was like the bumbling drunk sidekick. And most of the movie, he was in fact drunk and not doing much of anything. So it was just kind of like, hey, we want to do a Pirates of the Caribbean movie. We really need Jack Sparrow. We really need Johnny Depp. We're going to give him enough to do to give him the top billing, but ultimately the story doesn't surround him. And I think even Jack Sparrow himself, just in character, understands that. And so that is always something that is interesting. Whereas, you know, Salazar is hunting down Sparrow. Sparrow's not the key part of the story. And then, so at the end of the film, and this is what got me, I'm not going to lie, this is what actually got me. So it goes to the end of the movie, and you know, Henry and Caitlin are walking on the same cliffside, the very same cliffside that showed up at the end of At World's End, you know, 10 years after Will became the captain of the Flying Dutchman, where Elizabeth and young Henry are standing there waiting for the flash of green to come over the horizon. And that was always something I loathed about the last movie. Or the third movie. I loathed that. I'm like, you fucked up their fucking story. Like, there's got to be a way to fix it. Like, I was super pissed off. And then the fourth movie came out, and the fourth movie had nothing to do with the Turners whatsoever. And that was, again, something, keep in mind, when I saw the first movie, I saw that movie 65 times in one summer, and countless other times on home video. It's because my drive-in theater was showing it a lot, like twice a night, for I think like 11 weeks. So I watched that movie a lot. A lot. And so I always watched Will fight for Elizabeth, and I loved that story. And so I was so heartbroken and angered at the end of the trilogy when it's like he's now the captain of the Flying Dutchman. He can only step foot on land one time every 10 years, and he's not going to be there with the love of his life, his true love, and his son. And I felt like I was really angry at that like 10 years ago when the movie came out. So much so that I just never go back and watch the third movie. That was actually one of the reasons that turned me off to it. Like, I don't want to see this. So when they all of a sudden they get to that part again, I'm like, oh, cool. So we already know Orlando Bloom is in the movie because he was in the beginning. So then Orlando Bloom comes back, and I'm like, he's hugging Henry, and I'm like, oh, that's so nice, that's so sweet. And you look over to see Caitlin, like, oh, they're a family, and I'm thinking like they're probably gonna say like Elizabeth is dead or something. They're probably gonna say Elizabeth is gone, something like that. And then Orlando Bloom like turns and he looks over the hillside, and the camera like swoops up and goes over the hill, and you see Elizabeth come over the hill. And when she came over the hill and they saw each other for the first time in like 10 years or whatever, I was like. And like I started welling up hardcore, like to the point where I'm like rubbing away, I've got like fucking popcorn salt like rubbing in my eyes, like it burns, but it affected me because I'd watched this movie so many times. I wanted these characters to be together finally, and I was so angry at the end of the third movie that they chose to do that. They chose, Will sacrificed himself to save his father, I get that, but at the same time it's like, what the shit. And then it was interesting because after that it shows Johnny Depp on the Black Pearl. He's watching from a distance and he's like, let's go off and steal some shit. And then they again, just he's not the main character of the story. His story can continue, but the Turner stories I think are effectively done, except till you get to the stinger scene where Will and Elizabeth are in bed after some brown chicken brown cow. And then the door opens up and you see the silhouette of Davy Jones in like the lobster hand. And then Will wakes up, he's like, oh shit, what was that? And he's like, oh, it was a fucking dream. Oh my God, a fucking dream. And then, he rolls over and he hugs Elizabeth, and then the camera pans down and you see a wet spot and like a couple barnacles. And you're like, oh shit. Because he left the Flying Dutchman. His curse has been broken. That might bring about the end. And keep in mind that Davy Jones's curse was to die. At some point, maybe, I don't know, they're gonna, maybe if they do a sixth movie or something, they'll bring it in. This was a good end to not only the Turner story, but the franchise as a whole, and I think they should keep it that way. The things I liked were the story. I thought the story was pretty good. I liked how it basically felt kind of like a soft reboot, with Barbossa's daughter and Will's daughter and everything, or Will's son and everything else. I liked that. Johnny Depp's Jack Sparrow was drunk and just kind of felt like pointless, but they said that they're not going to do another movie unless Johnny Depp's involved. That makes sense because he's kind of like the meal ticket. Barbossa's dead unless they go to the underworld and they bring him back, which he's already died once and come back to life. So it's entirely possible that at this point he's fucking immortal. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens with that. And I'm really hoping that if they do, that they spend a little bit of time like working on the story and beefing it out. I don't know if this movie's going to do well, as well as they want financially, mostly because the theater I was in was almost empty. There was like, I saw it on 3D IMAX and there was not a lot of people. I asked the staff of the theater, is it pretty full? And they're like, nah, it ain't shit. Whereas Guardians of the Galaxy was like sold out when I was there a couple weeks ago seeing that. So again, who knows what's going to go on with this. But at the end of the day, this was a serviceable entry into the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, one that I will pick up when it comes out because I definitely do want to watch it again. You could probably skip over the fourth movie and just do 1, 2, 3, 5 if you want to just get the Turner story. And the Turner story is one that I really like. So to me, when they brought that full circle, I was like, oh, my heart, like, was just, oh, it was so cute, one of those like romantic movie moments for chicks. I'm just like, oh, because I love pirates. Like, you guys have to understand, seeing this movie, the first movie, as many times as I did, you just grow to love these characters, and everyone I worked with loved these characters. Everyone, we talk about it all the time. We all like, okay, quick anecdote. So in 2003, right before we got rid of Pirates of the Caribbean, we decided to change up our light bulb, our lighthouse for the projectors. Cause we're shooting 35 millimeter dusk, and the bulbs were just like, they projected, but it wasn't the greatest. So the owners invested into this new lighthouse that would allow us to get a much better, more vibrant picture on the screen. And even though we had Pirates of the Caribbean playing on the smaller side that didn't have that lighthouse yet, we had it on our main theater. The last night we showed Pirates of the Caribbean, we moved it over to the big theater and showed it in that. And then all the employees who weren't working that night, and even the employees who were there, all came out, and we all pretty much watched the movie one last time, because that is how much in 2003 we all loved the shit out of Pirates of the Caribbean. So this to me felt very much like kind of going home again, and also a lot of nostalgia and remembering my time working at my theater and how much fun I had working there. And I've been missing them a lot anyway, so it's kind of like that's where it tied in. So from a personal aspect, going into this film, it's kind of like going home. It's one of my favorite franchises. It's one of my favorite movies. And then this is just another story, while not as good, still serviceable. And I do recommend it enough. So yeah, this is what I think. These are always, I ramble about a movie for like 15 minutes. But I want to know what you guys think. If you guys saw the movie, let me know in the comments below. If you guys like the video, thumbs it up. Subscribe if you're new. I post new movie news and reviews all the time. Anyway, my name is Matt Jarbo. I'll talk to you guys later. Have yourself a great day, and yo ho, a pirate's life for me. All right, I'll see you guys later. Peace out.